Before we begin this episode, I would just like to apologise for the quality of the audio on my microphone. You buy shiny new headphones and then forget to test them out. But we live and learn, and hopefully we'll sort that out in time for the next one. Anyway, on with the episode. Hope you enjoy it.
Okay, so welcome to the Green Grassroots of Football with me, Andy Glover, and hopefully Mark Grinter, if he gets here at some point. He's in another meeting. Tonight we're going to be discussing Future Fit with the new FA directive. So, Grassroots Football is about change again. The FA Future Fit directive programme, is coming to you in the 26-27 season, and leagues across the country are now preparing for the biggest changes to youth football in years. Today, we are joined by the chairman of the Bristol Girls Football League. The league is actively preparing for the introduction of Future Fit. He'll be giving us a unique perspective of what changes mean for clubs, coaches, players, parents. Welcome, Dave.
Yeah. Thanks, Andy. Thanks for the introduction. I'm Dave Winfield. I'm chairman of the Bristol Girls League. Have been for just over 10 years. So as with things football, things do change. And 10 years ago, we had the 9v9 introduced, which was quite a large change compared to what I feel we are with Future Fit. Obviously, different size pitches, different size goals. A lot of resistance, but then would anybody now dream that would go back to not playing 9v9 and go straight from 7-a-side to 11-a-side? I don't think they would. So these changes are challenging, but are done for the right reasons and for the benefit of the players.
What was your first reaction when you heard about
it? I thought, oh yeah, it's another change. It's something else for the managers to contend with and the clubs to contend with. As a league, in fairness, it's just another league, whether we're offering a 3v3 at under 7s next season or a 5v5. It's actually not a lot of extra work. In fact, there's no different work for the league, and not even compiling results and things, which we still do in the background, although we can't publish them, then actually it's going to be slightly less work.
As a league official, did you immediately see any opportunities or challenges?
I mean, the challenges obviously from grassroots. I can see no challenges from the players. It will be from the parents, the managers, coaches that want to play the conventional four outfield players with one goalkeeper. So there will always be resistance to change, and there's going to be a teething period, and the naysayers will still hold up their hands and say this isn't good. Naively, perhaps, or just the FA and the amount of research and effort that they've put into it, I can guarantee they've asked countless more players what they want out of it than we probably ask our own players, in fairness. Might be unrespectful to them, but I think the reality is most clubs would probably want to keep things the same as they are because that's what they set up as. I see a lot of benefits. And I say there's obviously challenges in the first place and setting it up, and but it's just about girls and obviously boys playing football.
So. What conversations sort of started happening within the league? It's not necessarily the committee, but within the league when the proposals were announced.
I mean, it was done at not I won't say a high level, but obviously as chairman now, I was involved in quite a few meetings at the start of it as it was rolling out. I think my view is obviously the FA went to county FAs and then to leagues before they probably started approaching clubs. They'd obviously done survey areas, worked a lot with Liverpool University to do an analysis of data and how many times players touch the ball or don't touch the ball and what their involvement is at 5v5 and other levels. Came up with this solution. I think it's on a par to some of the other continental countries. Obviously, we have different issues over here. I mean, it's all right comparing us to Spain and Portugal where you can guarantee you've probably got fairly nice conditions on a Sunday in the middle of January. Whereas over here, there are different factors and pitch availabilities and 3G availability and the like. So there's lots of difference with the UK, and I don't think they've naturally rolled out what other countries are doing, but obviously other countries are doing this. Not to say we have to follow, but there's a reason they're doing it as well. So
I think we're the last major country in Europe to bring this in at 3v3, aren't we?
I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be. I mean, the analogy I'll use, we've got the AGM next week. If there's any, I think we've only got 7 teams entered, so it's not a big pool for next season, which is comparable to what we had at 5v5 under the sevens last season. Is if we give the, I mean, I think Andy's been to the Rose Green Centre where we have the meetings. Is obviously a cricket pitch outside and also a nice grass area just outside the door. If people took the children there and they give them a ball and say, "There you go, we're in a meeting for an hour," they're not going to sit around and say, "Well, there's no referee, there's no goals, there's no lines marked." They're going to get the ball and they're going to throw a couple of shirts down, hopefully not their shirts, and a couple of cans or something as a goal, and get on with it and make a game. And I think that's the FA rationale, is it doesn't have to be totally structured under 7. They've got time to develop into the structured game, but make it fun, get everybody involved. The best players will still be the best players, and the players that want to participate will still be those players.
Okay, so we'll start with the basics. And for anyone who hasn't followed the NX closely, I'll just give a quick overview of what Future Fit is. So Future Fit's a progressive framework introduced by the FA designed to restructure and improve grassroots youth football in England. The initiative aims to prioritise child development, increase ball in play time, and make the game more enjoyable. Key changes introduced by the framework include the 3v3 entry format. The introduction of 3v3 is a mandatory starting format for under 7, which is no goalkeepers and no substitutes, to guarantee more touches, meaningful involvement for every child. We've also shifted the age formats, so each playing format will shift 1 year later as players progress, pushing the transition to full 11v11 matches from under 13 to under 14. And then they simplified the rules, modified age-appropriate rules to maximise engagement and ensure young players learn through playing rather than waiting on the sidelines. And I think that one is the no heading and fall back into passing and kicking. So how would you explain Future Fit to a coach or a parent in like simple terms, the overall thing? What's the easiest way of describing it?
Well, I suppose there's different levels to it, as you've just covered. Obviously, the age group format that we operate as the girls' league, we'd already kept 1 year behind the boys. So we played at the smaller format for 1 year than the FA guidance was. Obviously, this now means that we're aligning. It just means that any team that's played this season will play the same format, the same squad sizes for next season, and have another year. Some of the teams, it will be no change. Some of the teams will have had 3 years at one particular age group. I don't see anybody having any qualms with that. Watched a very good playoff final a couple of days ago, 13s, under 13 goalkeepers in full-size goals. I mean, when my daughter started playing, we were doing it. It's a massive step forward. Keep the pitches smaller, the squad slightly smaller. Obviously, with smaller squads, you need more coaches, and obviously, we all know that the development and availability of coaches is the big issue. Girls want to play, but adults don't necessarily want to be taking on the large responsibility for coaching in these days. The 7v7, the under 7s, the Future Fit 3v3, then that is a significant change. I dare say some teams will go straight to under 8s and miss under 7s out, but I think it's a great opportunity just to get players playing and participating in the game, get used to the game, get used to the ball without the rigid structure that there tends to be with 5v5. And yeah, some of the other minor changes I don't see as being that significant to most people.
What's the key problem you think the FA are trying to solve? It has longer term, perhaps.
I think I think a lot of it is whether they say this or not. There's obviously reasons behind, but it's a skill development. If you've got, in effect, like we have this season, 11-year-old girls playing on a full-size football pitch at the larger ability, the higher end of the ability, that's actually great for those girls. At the lower end, it's not so good because some of the teams pitches are too big, the goalkeepers aren't tall enough, then they're not developing. There is scope to say we offer footballing in different age groups, different formats in the same age group, but then that means that players are developing at different levels, and it's obviously quite complicated and messy. So, hello, Mark.
Hello, Mark.
Yeah.
Hello, how are you? Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Got stuck on a sticker album. What meeting that went on for longer than anticipated?
I can't cope with that.
I think I told you we're having a sticker album for Fries next season. You know, like the panini.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's taken a bit more time than it should have done.
More fundraising. Good.
Yeah, we just covered the introduction and what you said. So okay. So
yeah. So I think with the 3v3, I see one of my daughter, which was a long time ago, but you see it in matches. You get sort of, in effect, we're talking under sevens, we're talking 5 and 6 year old or 6 year old players, and goalkeepers that may not even touch the ball during a match if it's a slightly one-sided match. So that player's getting no experience, no footballing, for want of a better phrase. And if there is a breakaway and there's a goal, then obviously they feel very bad and get demotivated. Whereas with 3v3, it's everybody's involved. There's no goalkeeper, so nobody makes a goalkeeping error. The ball goes in the net, you get it out, you have a go at getting up the other end, and there's no scores logged or anything. So people don't. I dare say some managers will still be there logging their scores and everything. But I think the idea is just get the players playing. I don't know whether there is a rollout for changing that up in the future. I don't think the FA, for personal opinion, would be brave enough to raise that now. But whether in a few years' time, it depends how it goes. And if it works as well as they hope and the trials go, then perhaps people will be saying, "Yeah, let's do this under 8s." I don't know. Well, I've had no indication that that's the case.
In terms of change, so the question I've heard a number of times. So the FA changed the football format back in 2012. Why change things again? And from a league perspective, and this is also for you, Mark, what evidence convinced either of you that change was actually needed? Because they did it just over 10 years ago. What did you actually see? Have any of you actually seen that you thought we need to go from 5-a-side start to 3v3? Have either of you seen anything?
You want to say anything, Mark?
Also, like I said, the quicker pass on the banding of the heading, that changed as well, or the movement to 11-a-side later. You know, what convinced either of you, if it did indeed, that change was actually required?
I mean, I think the concept, personally, for me, for 3v3, when you look at all the facts for the touches and stuff, could be beneficial. And the FA is obviously looking for a certain type of player, getting more people involved, X, Y, Z. And the touches thing is quite astronomical, the amount of touches that they get more on the 3v3. So, in theory, I can see why they're doing the changes. Whether it's been rushed, that might be up for more for debate. And I think certainly for a lot of grassroots clubs, it probably feels like it has been rushed. I know the FA have said they've given 2 years, but again, clubs have so much to do on a day-to-day basis being volunteers. I know for a fact we're probably not ready at Fries for it. We've not gone for it in the girls section because I haven't got the coaches to do it. So have we had enough time? Probably, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with you, I think, on that one. I think probably not. I mean, the fact obviously consultation has been there for a couple of years and stuff, but people don't start moving forward. But to me, one of the biggest thing is the goals, and obviously the goalpost funding only came out, and I think it was late April or May, I think it was, which is getting very late for the next season. To be honest, I think that was for whatever reasons it took so long. I don't know, because I mean they were talking about it back end of last year on various things that yes, it's been worked on, but I think clubs did need more time to get the funding in place, because we're not a central venue league and we're no intentions to be a central venue league. Then obviously we as a league we're not in a position to start buying the goals. I mean, if you're a central venue league like I think the Cotswold Boys League are, that have trialled it and are great exponents of the virtues of it, then obviously they've had a bit more lead time into it. But I think there could have been definitely a few changes with that, with hindsight. But there again, there's more chance for people to raise concerns and things as well. So
the big headline obviously is 3v3, and that's the change that everyone is talking about it. It's bits of a number of things, but the change that everyone's talking about 3v3 or 7. So first of all, Mark, have you encountered resistance from coaches or parents within the club with regard to this?
With what? Sorry, you muffled that.
Any resistance from coaches or parents with regard to the 3v3 move?
Not parents, coaches again is the more side of it, is that the 3v3 and the more of the understanding of how many coaches do they need, how many games will be going on, how long will they be there. Obviously they're doing a sort of coaching schedule for 3v3s with these, say, no goalkeepers. So then when you go into the second year, well, I'm now going to have to find myself one of those players to be a goalkeeper, even if they then. So there are different challenges to that. I think, again, until they actually get involved and do it for a season or two, you're not going to convince some people until they've actually done it. And maybe after a couple of weeks of doing it, they'll be happy doing it. But that concept of how long and how many you might need to run a game, if you're running 2 games simultaneously, well, in theory, you might need up to 4 to 6 coaches there. Because obviously one coach can't do it on its own. Safeguarding.
Or somewhere the idea is that one coach runs 3, 4, 5 pitches is the idea, because you just
what if you get 2 injuries on 2 pitches? That's.
But yeah, I mean, this is it. But you might get to. I mean, the reality is there'll be other people there, won't there, and parents watching each match. But yeah, I mean, if there's 2 injuries, but then you might have 2 players clashing the same match, and there's 2 players down anyway. Yeah, I mean, there are issues with that. I mean, Cotswold League use a rolling ball system, so if the ball goes off the pitch, as inevitably will do, then they've got another ball that somebody rolls in, and then they'll run off and pick it up, so they keep playing. Yeah, I mean, I've heard resistance or comments about things like the referee not having any goalkeepers, and yet like for under 8s, it's going to be a challenge, or perhaps players have realised they don't want to be out and when they do want to be a goalkeeper instead. But at least they've had a season where they've actually been out and about and participating in the match. I mean, whether it all works, and I suppose it's all down to the buying of people to make it work, because at the end of the day, the players are going to love it because they're all involved, they're all doing something. You've not got a keeper that stood in the goal net for 30 minutes without touching the ball. But it's the coaches and the parents that have a desire for somebody to actually win and stuff, rather than just say no, just play.
And following on, Dave, how will your league organise and administer the 3v3, and how different will match days look?
I mean, for us, once again, we've got the easy part of it. It's easy for us. We will put in, amongst the 7 teams, we'll put in fixtures, suggested fixtures between 2 clubs, and then literally it's between those clubs to manage the match day. We will ask that they put in a result of 1-0, so that we've got an audit that we know that the fixture has taken part, and we know it's sort of things are happening, but there'll be no need to report scores, no need to get fined for late things, no need to. Obviously, players will still need to be registered on full time as a Bristol Girls League player, so they'll still need to do that. So that's all ready for the under 8s. That is an FA requirement. But I say the work is going to be down to the coaches on the day to agree a format based on how many players they've got. They don't need to worry about substitutes. I did raise a concern with one of the presentations that I saw from the FA about how many pitches they wanted going concurrently, and said, well, surely you can have players sat down between matches or waiting between matches. And their idea was, no, they play playing all the time. I think the logistics of that is going to be quite complicated for most people. So if you've got, let's just say, 9 players, then theoretically you'll have 2 matches going on with 6 players involved and 3 players at the side. And then 10 minutes when that match is finished, then you'll mix it around again. And I would hope that what will happen is most managers and coaches will have a situation by the end of the meet, as it were, the matches, that they'll probably have situations where their 3 best players are in a match against the other team's 3 best players, and then downward the middle players, and then the other players are playing against people with the same similarish abilities, which obviously just doesn't happen, and everybody's getting equal game time because you're playing in all the matches, as opposed to obviously having to put subs on and that issue. The best players will still be the best players. They will float to the top, but then it's how it will be theoretically easier to get the best players matched up to comparable matches and start pushing them at an earlier level than we probably do at the moment, where most 5v5 teams have got probably 2 good players and 3 less good players, and then substitutes that have to fit in, and you have to take your best players off to put other substitutes on to give them game time, which is always a difficult one.
Well,
so
development, and obviously, Mark, you are obviously a league official with the Girls League as well. So the whole philosophy behind the smaller format is increasing involvement. To both of you, do leagues have a responsibility to prioritise development over tradition?
yeah,
I'm happy to say. I mean, I think obviously involvement stuff is the main thing. You want as many girls and boys playing football as possible. So again, in theory, it's all fantastic that you've got 3v3s and all the way ups and everything. With that, I think where the girls' game is potentially different to the boys' game is it is growing at such a big pace. The girls' game, Bristol Girls League, is a classic example of that. But there is still a lot less players and stuff. And so as you've gone older, say for an example now that the 11v11s is under 14s. Now, the general data and stuff like that with the girls' league and generally with the boys' league is when players drop off. Get teams and stuff that fold because they haven't got enough players. And yet we've gone for an extra year where they, in theory, going from 9v9 to 11v11, so you've got to recruit. As an example, our under 13 as we've got into the A, we'll have a squad of 13, 14 for 9v9 this year. When we go to 11v11, we've then got to be suddenly hoping that we keep all those girls and recruit maybe another 3. Now, I don't know where we're going to be recruiting them at 14 years of old unless other teams fall.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is a difficult one because we've got 4 phases where you need to increase that squad size. So it is a difficult one, and we're looking at a rule so that we can increase the squad size at the younger age group, so that you can have more players signed on, so to prepare clubs ready for the move up. Obviously, larger squad sizes means there's fewer players actually playing, which is on match day, which is obviously not what we want. I mean, my ethos of the Bristol Girls League has always been about participation and numbers. I we haven't really focused on the ability, because obviously the ability and player development is something that the clubs are not so responsible for. We're all responsible for everything, but have got the biggest involvement in. What we need to do is facilitate it so that the best teams are playing each other and the weaker teams are playing each other, just to keep the participation. Because what we don't want is, we don't want teams dropping out. We know there will be inevitable drop off at 15s, 16s, 17s, which is sort of to a degree slowing, albeit the figures of 13 and 14 are the peak now, and obviously hopefully as those leagues continue to grow, they will, more of the retention will stay, which means that we've got more competitive leagues at the older age groups, which means that more players stay and teams don't fold because they keep getting beat every week. Some teams will get beat every week because that's just the nature of football, unfortunately. But obviously if we can have as equal leagues as possible, then that's a step forward.
So moving on, obviously every major change ultimately lands on the volunteers, as Mark and I organise charity events and tournaments know. But how much additional work will this create for the volunteers, and what support will leagues provide to help clubs adapt? But also, are the leagues receiving enough support and guidance?
I mean, with this set of changes, I think the 9v9 change was a fundamental one. Obviously, a set of 3v3 goalposts compared to a set of 9v9 goalposts, the cost is, and obviously getting extra pitches and facilities, whereas the concept with 3v3 is you mark an area out with cones and they play within that, whether that's two matches going on a 5v5 pitch or a 7v7 pitch or something. It's a flexible format. It doesn't have to be marked out pitches. So hopefully once the coaches get a format and a feel for how they're running it, we're in communication with the GFA about running some sort of like awareness session at Almondsbury with the GFA in either end of June, July. Obviously, we'll raise this with the under 7 managers and clubs on Tuesday night at the AGM to get feedback on that, and people just as a separate unit. So we only do have 7 teams entered next season, so it's something we can obviously manage relatively easily. And if it doesn't work at the first weekend, then I'm sure most people will be able to get some sort of football event organised. They've got a bit of grass and they've got a football, they'll sort something out. It's not a prescribed, you've got to do it exactly in this way. The FA have made some suggestions. And I take on board Mark's comments about the fact that stepping up, that we've now got from 3-a-side, 5-a-side, 7-a-side, 9-a-side, 11-a-side. So we've got actual 4 transitional periods whereby your team needs extra players. So I said we are looking at a rule change to allow squad sizes to increase at the younger age group. Whether that gets voted in, because obviously we don't necessarily want teams. Some teams will have larger squads, and we know full well some of those girls are never going to get a chance at a weekend. Whereas if you've got smaller squads, albeit they need 2 managers, then you can have 2 teams and you can have 2 matches and everybody's playing. So it's a difficult one from that respect. I mean, we'll try and do what we can to support, but I think really the 3v3 is going to be a matter of being out there to touch base with as many clubs. I mean, there's only going to be at most 4 events happening on the first weekend of the Sunday, so we'll sort of try and get out there and just offer any guidance and support and just say, look, it's a transitional period. It's no right and wrong. It's just trying to do our best and do it right for the girls.
I mean, Future Fit isn't just changing formats, it's changing how football is coached. So, Mark, do you think coaches need additional education and support? And how important do you think coach buy-in is going to be for the success of Future Fit?
Coach buy-in is going to be crucial. I mean, you've got to have the coaches believe in what they're doing. Again, basically, like we've said, they're all volunteers. They'll all come at it from a slightly different angle. Some, no matter what, you'd hope certainly at the under sevens and stuff that it is all about participation, development, fun, learning, and everything like that. There will be some, and you've got to convince them that it's win at all costs, even at 3v3, that they'll be want, like Dave said, we'll be wanting to win 15-0 every week,
Yeah.
which won't help it at all. You've got to get that balance right of they've got to buy it in however they do it. You've also got to get, it's not only the coaches, I think you've got to get buy in, you've got to get all the league chairmen to buy in, the secretaries, the finance people, everybody on the committee of the clubs have got to buy into it, because then it will help develop it. If you have resentment or holdback, that won't go into it. There'll be parents that are struggling with it. I think, again, with the no heading rule, there's still some not feedback on that and how they coach the past to be equal. There's no fixed positions. There's no all of this. There needs, probably does need to be more education when they come in. Certainly, with maybe people doing the level 1 courses and stuff. Part of the Future Fit is part of the level 1 course on a more, because that's generally where people are going to be starting from. So that they buy in from that. Without there is a lot of traditionalists in a lot of football clubs. Certainly with the committee members and everybody like that are more people of a certain age who had football, played football of a certain way, and that is it, and they won't change. And it's by getting them to buy in as well. I think maybe the younger people. I mean, within schools now, and it's still a big for my is as an example, is sports day is non-competitive, and it's then but the younger generation now are more bought into than it is. So it's convincing maybe from young coaches, 20-year-olds up, to convince the older people maybe to buy into it as they go forward.
Yeah, I suppose the other thing as well is we're going to have a lot of parents that coming in, obviously, where their older children have gone through football in a certain way, and obviously all of a sudden their 6-year-old is now playing 3-a-side, and that's a change. However, there will be a lot of players coming in where it's their first, so they actually don't know any different. And I suppose it's hopefully tapping into those people that actually have got no preconceptions to hopefully drive it through a little bit. But like as Mark says, it is all about the whole game only functions on volunteers. I think from a league perspective in Germany, the leagues are actually all run by the county FAs or the FAs, the equivalent of, as opposed to volunteers. Clubs will always be volunteers, and they will always be critical to the running of youth football and even adult football as well. So yeah, making sure that we don't disillusion people is a key one. I mean, the Bristol Girls League has, I think, over 700 registered officials, should we say, whether it's managers, coaches, secretaries, admin people attached to the league. That's a hell of a lot of people. So it's a lot of people to try and keep happy. And any feedback that we get on what we can do, because like Mark said as well, everybody's different. I don't see this as being the biggest change. When my daughter started playing, which, as Mark alludes to, I'm not the youngest, the under 16s were playing, the under 16 girls were playing on Coca-Cola pitches, the 7v7 goals, 6-a-side. So you had a goalkeeper stood in the net where they could touch both posts and was touching the head on the crossbar. So that was deemed as a big change when they obviously moved up, and obviously numbers didn't allow it to start off with because there weren't that many girls playing, but nobody would dream that would move back to that now. I don't think anybody. I mean, what a question to you two gents is, do you think we'd ever, if the FA turned back and said we're going to abolish 9v9, do you think they'd be up for about that?
Good question. Depends on when, because I think there's enough people still remember from 70s, especially in the bigger cities where on the boys' side you've got two teams of 7-a-side that combine to go 11-a-side, and it's a perfect fit of numbers. But in girls' league, it's normally one team, so you're looking for players all the time. But when I've run boys teams through, you have your two teams of seven, usually 20 players, 18 players. They come together to form one squad of 11. You're not looking for players. You get natural wastage, and there's your squad. And so you go 7 to 11, and you haven't got the issue of, I've got to find players, and you don't have teams folding. Now you go 5 to 7 to 9 to 11. You're constantly looking for more players, and it's causing teams to fold. As Mark found when he picked up 3 or 4 players about 4 years ago, because of couldn't manage that transition and lost players, and that's where he picked up players from. Because in the girls' league they don't have that 2 teams at every group, and they folded. As I said, the boy when it was 7 to 11, and I think there's enough managers and people around who remember that would probably say, I think that's probably better as a retention point of view. I'm going to say managing that transition of numbers. I mean, I personally just felt if you're going to go to 9, just go to 11-a-side numbers on a 9-a-side pitch. Then you don't have to worry about losing players. Find your numbers, 9-a-side pitch, get bigger, 11-a-side pitch. Going to 9-a-side numbers, and okay, you've got to find more and find more and find more. It just causes so many issues. Mark,
it's a fair point. Now, I mean, I suppose I would say with the 3v3 is there's no limit on the actual amount of players you can register. So it's actually, if you've got 9 players, then instead of having 1 5-a-side to 5v5, then you'll have enough for 3 matches a weekend. So.
But the problem, I'm going to come back to you now. We played my girls' team. We played one of our first games. I think it was against Team Valley, and they came along with 6 players, and I stood there with 13 players. So if you put TV3 and they turn up with their 6 players, and you've got 12 players, and you're like, how do you manage this? That's where the 3v3, because you have 6 players stood around whilst 6 play, and then they're going to say, well, these 6 are back, right? And so
but then I mean the FA would say, well, you just give the 6 girls a ball and say, right, you go and play 3v3 over there, and don't stand on the sidelines not doing anything like they would do at a match. I mean, that's the rationale of it. Obviously, that's not the same when it gets to other age groups, but at the 3v3.
It's like girls football at the moment, but traditionally the boys' side is bigger, and you've got 20 boys or 25 boys in one squad. It's something that and you're talking about space and everything else. So it's an interesting one.
Yeah. I mean, the squad size is going to be an issue because it's just going to be an every season event, isn't it? Unfortunately,
we haven't got nice pitches up on the downs.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose we're probably quite lucky. I know obviously clubs probably don't see that, especially when it rains a lot. But I think with pitches, I don't think we have the issues. I was a conference call with somebody from the London League, and one of the players was their dad was a fairly famous Premier League manager, and she was saying we've only got 1 pitch, and all the leagues literally is consecutive matches one after another because it's central London, and they've just got no pitches, so the kids can't play because there's says that. Whereas obviously pitches is challenging, but I mean, hopefully in our part of the world, it's not as challenging as other parts of the world.
Well, interesting. My next question is the practical question of facilities. Can existing venues accommodate new formats? Obviously, you said that, but Mark and I have been to a lot of matches at various places. Mark, what's your view on venues? You've been to a lot of venues.
I mean, there are places where it's going to be. I'm sure it's going to be tight. Again, I think it might be harder to say boys league if they are having. Got 3 or 4 games going on at the same time at 3v3. That is going to be more space is going to be used up. I think even at Summerdale, where we were quite lucky in the size due to how it's all expanded. Us and Red Falcons. I know we're tight on space with the 3v3s next year. There's not much space left. I think there might be talk that we use the 11v11 pitch to accommodate it. That's to be confirmed. And I know they've said it can go across the 5v5 pitches, which is fantastic. But in theory, then those 5v5 pitches would be used because the game has expanded, and it's again the girls' side of it is there's so many new clubs, new teams coming in, that their existing spaces on the boys' side, that when these games are being played is not directly at 10:30 because there's just not enough space. So it is again, it's something to think about. Then the pitches are going to get used more. They're going to get obviously the youngsters won't cut it up hopefully that much, but groundsmen can be their own little world as well. And they sometimes think a 5-year-old will cut a pitch up as much as a 23-stone bloke running around it and they're convinced they're going to do the same damage. And again, that's another bunch of people that you've got to convince that it is good is groundsman. Especially on, say, council pitches and stuff like that.
So, Dave, have clubs expressed concerns about space and scheduling?
Sorry, have clubs expressed concerns
about space and scheduling?
I missed the last bit about
space and scheduling.
Space and scheduling. Not yet, no, because I think it's new for everybody. I mean, the way I would look at it, obviously, it's fairly naive, and I'm not the one that's got to do it. I mean, organising pitches and things is a nightmare. I've been there, seen it, done it over the years. But if you've got a 5v5 pitch and you've got 10 players on it, as Mark says, the FA rationale is, well, just play across the pitch and have 2 pitches. So all of a sudden, on that same pitch, you've got 12 players playing. That's 2 extra players playing football. You've not got a goalkeeper, so you're not getting somebody that's just walking around in circles in the middle of the goal because they've got nothing to do because the ball's at the other end of the pitch. So you're probably wearing different parts of the pitch. So I don't think the pitches aren't designed to be the full size of half a 5v5 pitch. So you could probably have one and then in bad weather move it a couple of yards further down for the next match just to wear it. But it's all time and extra work for people from that respect. But obviously you've not got to set up full proper 5v5 goals. The 3v3 goals are just going to be pop-up things that just pop up, and so that will save a bit of time. You're not going to organise a referee. You've not got to pay a referee. So all that club funds. So, I mean, I don't know how many 5v5 referees actually do get paid, but I mean, a lot of clubs will use help. Obviously, qualified people, obviously, but I mean, parents and things at that level. But I'm sure some clubs do appoint referees and pay them as well. So you're saving that. There's still a lot of questions. I mean, go back to your question, the point on heading as well. I think heading is an interesting one because it was a change that the FA introduced at a middle level a couple of years ago, and that age group has now stopped heading and then moved it lower. So it's didn't start at the youngest age group. I think some of that is down to, as I was talking to a parent the other week about it, and they said, well, actually our girls don't head it. And I think you get the better teams where the players are much more committed and much more able, should we say. You get a lot of 11, 12, probably 13-year-old football whereby you're not going to see many headers in a match anyway. Not such a big and so long as the referees, if a player does head it, obviously applies a certain amount of common sense, then it can move on. Obviously, the girls don't head the ball to the degree that boys did. So whether there's any lasting damage or not, who knows? But if they're not heading it, then nobody can argue with it. And in their development for the future game, is not heading a ball much till you get to 13's a big issue. But I don't know. That's for the experts that are paid a lot of money to decide on these things, really.
Okay. So one of the key objectives of Future Fit is ensuring more players are involved and developed. So, first of all, to both of you, do you think Future Fit can improve retention rates? And how do we measure whether Future Fit is successful?
Yeah, good question. I suppose from our perspective as a league, we can obviously measure year-on-year participation. how many teams enter. I think we had 7 under-8, under-7 teams last season. We got 7 this season. So how many squad players are registered? Because obviously you could potentially have more. I don't know is the answer. We'll be able to look next season and see how many teams, and obviously that's all down to the clubs. If the clubs are liking it and they're thinking, yeah, this is actually does work for us, then hopefully we'll have more teams. So I think we should get a good drop off, because obviously if we have a situation next team, we've got twice as many under-8 5v5 teams and nobody entering under-7s, then that's your indication, I think. So I think we should get quite a clear indication this time next year as to how successful or not people think it's been.
Art, what do you think? Development as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what David said. It'll be next year, certainly, and then the year after for the participation. I think, obviously, if you look at what probably the FA, if they won't say, in my opinion, the future fit, is they are looking at the success of English football going forward, how successful they're going to be in future World Cups, future how the England from 7 boys, at the women and the men's teams are, so that they've got more people playing football. And to be blunt with the FA, which I've said before, for them it'll be about how successful and how much money they're making, and that is they want the talent to get there. And they've looked at, I think, the Dutch way of doing it, and how the touches thing is a big thing, and they'll hopefully be getting more skillful players. And in theory, this future fit will give them more individuals and better individuals of players in the long term. So again, from the top down, again, obviously, if the England teams are successful, that will filter down to boys and the girls at grassroots level. I think a big reason why the girls section of women's football developed so much has been the success of the England female team. So that is what they're doing it for. And I think the future fit, if it's given time, you probably won't obviously get the results of this for 10 to 15 years to see if you're getting more skillful, cultured players, what the FA might be after. That could be a long-term thing. But eventually I think that will benefit, certainly. And then in 10, 15 years, if England are more successful and there's more, people playing football, then participation will grow. It might be something that does take a while.
It's funny you mention that, because critics argue that traditional youth football encourages direct physical football too early. So does the change to smaller formats, or could it change football culture at grassroots level?
I think it probably will do. Yeah, I think it will do. I think how football is and what and again professional clubs will be looking for in players will change over this, because it'll be more about, there will be more skill and more participation. I think even now at, say, the academy players, and when they're looking for under 13s, under 12s, under 11s, the physical attributes probably sometimes outweigh the skillful players. If you've got, they'll always take a more taller, say stronger 12-year-old who's probably got the same skill or less skill than a smaller 10, 11-year-old. I think this might, and hopefully, I think the thing is that they are looking for all-round players going forward. It's not somebody you can lump the ball 50, 60 yards and play that. They want to play the proper game, almost like your tic-tac, your Barcelona football. And this is what potentially 3v3 will give, because it'll be more touches, more skillful players. But it will change.
Dave, anything from you on that point? Or?
Yeah, I think, I mean, any change is going to have a knock-on effect. I mean, if it's as successful as what the trial leagues and the FA think, obviously the FA are going to push it because obviously they're committed to it. It's whether it does move up or the format moves up age groups at some stage in the future. But I think they will listen to the views of the grassroots football, because they know how the volunteer pool is critical to the game. So I don't think they want to instigate things blanket without consultation. Obviously, whoever they consulted with in the first place believes this is the right thing. But it will inevitably instigate some changes, but hopefully for the best. As Mark says, if it develops skill levels at the lower level, then if we have a situation, we have a generation that nobody wants to go in goal, then that. But then I think a goalkeeper's inbred, isn't it? It's if you're a goalkeeper, you're a goalkeeper. I think when you're playing 3v3 or 5v5, I think it will soon come out. It's only 1 year, so
Yeah. From a league perspective, are there any misconceptions that you're trying to address at all? Obviously, you've had the information from the county more than we as clubs have had. Anything or any questions you've been asked frequently or misconceptions you're trying to sort out?
not really, because obviously I think because I was involved fairly early on, the process was explained, and because my vested interest, yeah, it sounds like good enough. Obviously, you trust the research that it is going to be a good thing. On paper, it looks like a good thing. I think some of the things that they've done regarding how many pitches, I think was having a conversation the other night. I think one of the matrices that they published was that you could have 24 matches going on an 11-a-side pitch. Well, that would just be bedlam and totally unrealistic. You just wouldn't need to have that many pitches. Because if you've got that many players, you can have facilities that you've got more. So I think that sort of like freaks people out a little bit. In the fact that you could have 4 pitches going on at the same time and something, and that's 24 players playing as opposed to 22 players if it's 11-a-side. So you're getting more participation. So I think it's a matter of addressing things as they come up, because people will have interesting thoughts that perhaps haven't been raised before or thought about before. I think not having to have referees, not having to get full-size goals, not having to manage substitutes as well. To me, it sounds like it's actually going to help the managers a lot on the day, and perhaps they can help out a bit more with coaching and thoughts. There was concerns raised about what happens when we go the following year to 5v5 and we won't have a template of details of how good the sides are. But I think by that stage, people will know who's got the best squads and stuff, and people will get a feel for which teams need to be in a Division A or a Division B. And we'll listen to people and they'll say, look, we've got a good side here. We need to be in A, or we've not got a good side and we need to be in B. It's we'll try and listen to people and work it, because it's the managers and the coaches are the ones that know what their teams are like realistically. And yes, they've got a vested interest. And yes, they've got a division that they want to play in, and we've got to try and facilitate it to make it fair that the right teams are in the right leagues. Because if you've got the wrong team in the wrong league, then that affects everybody else in that league, and that's not good for anybody.
Moving on, change obviously comes with costs. So, Mark, first, what support would you like to see from the league or the county? And then Dave, what support would you like to see from the county or the national FA? I mean, the main cost, I think, is the goals for this 3v3, certainly. So, Mark, what support would you like to see?
Yeah, I mean, again, well, you said it is the goals and everything, and potentially for some clubs it will be they might need new facilities. But realistically, we know from leagues, FAs, that the money won't come down to, it just, well, I mean, I don't know how much at prize we've been given by the FA. I don't think it's an awful lot, even the 10 years that I've been there. I'll be honest, I'll be surprised if we've had more than a fiver.
Footballs every year.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Couple of footballs every year.
Yeah, and a couple of bibs now and again. Even when we did like the Wildcats thing, we got, I think it was £250 for the first year in 2019, and we've had nothing since. So you're having to do all of the fund, like I said, I was late to this because we're organising a fundraising thing again. It's permanently trying to do stuff. I think again that is something that the FA has come up with these things, and like Dave said, with the goals are late, but maybe there should have been a pot say we are doing this. If you are taking part, we've only got one team, I think, or two teams in the boys section that they did say here is X amount of money, I think, from the FA.
Well, I mean, have you looked in, because the funding has come out now? I mean, has anybody at the club looked at that? Because it's not clear. I'm not able to get all the way through the process, because you start off with, you need two quotes from suppliers, and then you apply to the FA. Now, I'm not clear whether it actually is full funding for the goals, or whether it's done by a percentage of the cost. Obviously, because it's not a central venue, as a league, we're not actually applying for the funding.
I mean, and I think that might be the problem, though, is that then potentially the right people, or the secretaries, the treasurers of clubs who will be spending, whether they've been given that information. I'm not 100% sure if it's
Yeah,
crystal clear to a lot of clubs that is potentially out there.
I think that's the difficulty. It's a difficult, if you've got a team of volunteers that are obviously all focused on fundraising, but if you've got one or two that are in, like, doing this sort of like digging, because like most of these things, it's never clear, it's never straightforward. The funding is there, but it's just actually how you actually get it. I mean, it's yeah, I'm not sure what the answer is to that, because at the end of the day, yes, as a league, we could canvas stuff together, but it's still down to the clubs to apply for the funding. No doubt there probably is more as a league that we could do to pull out information and push it towards the clubs, if we're pushing it to the right people. I mean, obviously, as a league, I don't think we charged for joining the under-7 league this season. We've actually reduced the joining fee again. So I think from a league perspective, obviously we are reducing what the cost is and what we're charging. Unfortunately, we can only do that because of the fines. But if teams don't do what we ask them to do and what other teams do, then that's the case, I'm afraid.
I mean, I think from leagues, from Bristol Girls League, yeah, even, and I presume even Youth League, Bristol Boy, under 18s, I think their the hands are tied. It is more what the Gloucestershire FA can do, what the Somerset FA can do. Certainly Somerset and even Gloucester. I mean, I know both of them are both late. Obviously Sky at Gloucestershire and Rachel at Somerset and other people there, that they do an awful lot for the football. But whether their communication out to the clubs with the funding and stuff, whether that could be easier, could be, look, you could almost, the FA, the Somerset FA, the Gloucestershire FA could almost literally say, look, if you're having a 7-a-side team, sign up to this, and it's a couple of, one, maybe 2-page form, and you fill it out, and then that club will send you, even if the FA had, I don't know, Somerset FA had, I'll say 1,000 goals for argument's sake, and Fry's said, well, we need 4. They just post the 4 out to them.
Yeah. I mean, this is it. I was hoping when they said about the funding, I mean, I suppose it's different. Well, they could have done it differently for the girls, because you don't have the numbers. I don't know how many boys 7v7 teams there are going to be, but it's going to be a lot. Whereas for the amount in the county, I mean, that's 7, which is going to be split between GFA and SFA. The funding is all done centrally, so they will turn around and say, that's not our responsibility. And as we all know, the FA are clawing more stuff central and giving less responsibility and less control to the county FAs. So I suppose funding is one of those things that is done centrally. But it would have been nice if they'd have turned around and said, yes, we want to get this going, and you've entered. I mean, it was a long time ago, but when respect barriers came in, they gave us a respect barrier for each team. So we then, obviously it was a pain distributing them, but I mean, at least teams had respect barriers, which was a great thing, because if you've supplied them, then you've got no excuses. It's
Coming to the end of the pod, so that's question number 2. So the FA says this is about shaping football for the next generation. So this is for both of you. Where do you see grassroots football in 5 to 10 years if Future Fit succeeds?
I mean, again, if Future Fit succeeds and everybody gets the buy-in, it is only going one way. There will be a saturation. So again, the grassroots, for the whole thing and the buy-in, it should hopefully be really beneficial and good. So, like I said, to get that total buy-in. There's going to be teething problems. It's how the next 12 to 24 months go with the teething problems. But once you've got over that barrier, I'm sure it will thrive.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that. I think I do feel it is a good step forward. Is it difficult? It's a change, so there's difficulties within that, but hopefully this is another 10-year gap as well. Not really sure what they could do in 10 years' time. Obviously, they do tend to leave it 10 years before making fundamental changes. I'm not sure what they could do next. This seems to be like a logical format. Yes, there's issues with player number increases every other year, but hopefully this is here to stay and people go into it. I suppose we know that the girls are expanding and hopefully will continue to do that. Boys, I suppose it's when they're looking at overall participation, then the boys dropping is key. And if it doesn't work for the boys, then that'll be interesting to see, because everything is all about standardization across boys and girls now. So I can't see there's a way that they would have one rule for girls and one rule for boys moving forward. So if this doesn't work for the boys, then that'll be interesting to see if there is a change back.
And finally, I'll start with Mark, as someone directly involved in delivering these changes. Let's finish with your overall assessment.
With the what, sorry?
Someone directly involved with delivering the changes that are happening, obviously, with as a coach and obviously you're involved with the league as well. Finish with your overall assessment of future fit, what you think of it generally.
I think, as I said, eventually it will be good. The concept and everything about it, and the theory is and good. Let's be honest, it is good. You'll hopefully get more playing. You'll get everything doing. I said my concern still is, as with everything nowadays, where we've sort of now got to with a club, is volunteers. The bigger it gets, the younger they are. I know said that David said obviously with this 3v3 that you can have one coach running 3 or 4 games. I mean, I think it'd be interesting on a wet day to keep 12, 7, 8-year-old children happy with one person, and the stresses that will come with. And then, so again, I think there'll be teething problems, as there inevitably is with change and everything. But if they stick with it, it will be a good thing in the long term. But I think it'll just take, like Dave said, a 10-year plan. It'd probably be 8 years' time when everybody goes, this is the norm. And what was everybody worried about? But it's just getting to that 8 years period.
What's your overall assessment?
Well, slightly more optimistic. Let's say 8 weeks on the 3v3. I think once people have got the hang of it, and I take on board what you say. I think the thing is, obviously, at the moment, there's always going to be a minimum of 2 coaches at a match anyway, from one for each side. And I think most teams will have some level of assistance as well. So if you've got a coach and an assistant, then you can run 4 matches and have somebody looking at each match as well as the parents and stuff. They're all going to be in the same area. But it's a change. It's difficulty. Hopefully, after the first few weeks, the players come off and love it, and then hopefully that's the decision made for the managers and the coaches and the parents. Because I think obviously one of the things we already touched on is the parents, and it's another thing for the managers to explain it. It hasn't been cascaded down to all levels, I don't think, particularly well, in fairness. Obviously, you two guys are totally au fait with everything and focused with it. You probably can't say the same for all the coaches, maybe within your club, but certainly some of the clubs it won't. So therefore, they're not going to cascade it to the parents and things. There's a lot of volunteers. Still get a lot of one of my friends manages a team, and he still gets a lot of linesmen that don't understand the relatively new offside rule.
Oh, yes.
And so you're going to get that, unfortunately. And there's nothing worse than somebody who thinks they know what the answer is without saying, well, actually, I'm not sure. And I think asking questions, but hopefully it beds in, it keeps the participation up and bolsters the leagues at 5v5 all the way up, and increases the standard. I think the standard has vastly improved over the last decade in female football anyway. It is immeasurable now to where we were 10 years ago, and that's a credit to coaches like yourselves. And I think it's going to be difficult to see when the Lionesses are as successful as they are. It is going to be difficult to see how the FA do measure the success, because they can't really go that much further. I mean, obviously, but it's the participation. I think if the kids are enjoying it and want to keep playing, even if they're getting beat, then that's the proof in the pudding.
I think from my perspective, I think the more touches, the more players get, more involvement girls and boys have in football, the better it can be. I think. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me.
No problem.
Thank you for doing it, and sorry for being late. Yeah, thank you, really good.
And listeners and viewers, I hope you enjoyed that, and join us again next podcast. Thank you all very much.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, cheers. Thanks, Dave. Cheers, Andy. Good night.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
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 You've been listening to a We Haven't Got a Clue What We're Doing production, produced and edited by Andy Glover.